Hey, it's Susan here. Welcome to the Psychic Sisterhood Module 2A. And in Module 2, in the Modules 2, we're going to be talking about spiritual practice. Now, if you participated in the 7-day challenge or something, another event that I offered where meditation was involved, then you got a little bit of a sample of meditation. Now, some of you do meditation, you have a spiritual practice, and that's fantastic. What I'm going to do in this module, I'm going to go through some of the types of spiritual practices that are available to you and why we even do them in the first place. Like, what is it that they do for us? And I do have notes here, so if I'm looking down, it's because I'm reading my notes. So hang in there with that, because as a former teacher, I always like to come prepared. So why do we do spiritual practice in the first place, and why is it important to what we're doing? First of all, it connects us with the universe, with our higher self, with source, with spirit, with whatever energy you choose to call your higher power. And it connects us in a way, depending on the type of meditation we do or the type of spiritual practice we do, that allows us to channel answers, to receive information with some of the practices. It also helps us practice psychic safety, and that's one of the things that I am going to go over with you specifically, because I don't like to call it protection per se. I just like to call it psychic safety, and there are some guided meditations that we can do, that you can do, to help with psychic safety, because the more you open, the more you're an open channel for sometimes things you don't want to have come into your energy field. So we always want to practice psychic safety, and through guided meditation, we can do that. And sometimes there are other types of spiritual practice that can help with that as well. Certainly, we open our divine energy everywhere, because we're not doing this just for us. We're really here to also raise consciousness on this planet. And part of doing that is to be able to see the divine essence in every being. And we want to be able to look at somebody and look through what we see on the outside, or the judgments we're formulating and the behaviors we're seeing and the words we're hearing, and still be able to see the divine essence in each human, including ourselves. Often we look at ourselves or look in the mirror or think of ourselves, and what we focus on is our personality or the things in our outer world that we're experiencing. And we forget that there is a part of us that is pure divine energy, pure spiritual energy, that is not upset about anything, that is simply opening and continuing to expand, and is holding everything we've ever wanted to manifest in this human experience. But we do have a part of us that is pure spirit, whatever you want to call it, source energy, your inner being, your beingness, the part of you that is still non-physical, because we all have that. And being able to open that further and connect with that energy, some people will say the universe is everywhere. Divine energy is everywhere present. What we see externally, what we have internally. So we want to be able to focus on beings out there. I know it's really hard when it comes to insects, I have to say, but beings out there, and be able to see the divinity, the divine essence within them. And that's going to only help you open up more to your divine self, more to your psychic energy, and also help you become a human who's able to see beyond what you're seeing in their personality. It doesn't mean you don't hold, parameters for yourself or safety for yourself, because you can look at a terrorist and see the divine essence, but it doesn't mean you want to get your head cut off kind of thing. I know it's a really morbid example, but you don't have to participate if somebody's personality, if somebody's way of moving about the human experience is harming you. You can still see the divine essence in them, but it doesn't mean you have to hang out, if that makes sense. So that helps with that. It creates psychic safety, helps self-realization, and I say that with a capital S and a capital R, and awareness. We think we're really aware of ourselves for the most part, and most of you do have a high level of self-awareness and self-realization. Self-realization is about realizing the oneness of who we are with all things. And when I was talking about the divine essence, that's part of it, is realizing that we're all connected, we're all one, we all have the same access to higher self, to source energy, to the beingness, to the universe as everybody else. Not everybody chooses to connect with that, but we want to be able to see, get to a place of self-realization. It doesn't happen overnight. It may not happen till the completion of this lifetime, but we want to be in process with it. Self-awareness, again, with a capital S, to be aware of what's going on externally, what's going on internally. And that self-awareness and that self-realization focus and movement towards that is only going to help your intuition grow, because the more you are self-aware, the more you are heightening your senses, and you're able to connect in with other people and read them and use your intuition in every area of your life. So to become more self-aware, it also means you get to look at some of the things in your human experience that weren't so pleasant. And we're going to be doing an entire module on how to clear some of that energy so that you're not constantly holding on to it where it's blocking your ability to become self-aware, become more aware of your divine essence and the essence of others, and to access your intuition. Because if you are, getting aware of something really unpleasant or incredibly painful, what's trying to happen is we're trying to have it leave your experience so that you have the memory of it, but you don't have the energy charge that goes with it. Meditation, self-realization, self-awareness can help. Spiritual practice can help with those things as well. It can help us, sorry, my hair's doing a little crazy stuff here. It can help us remove what the blockages are within us so that we can have stronger access to our psychic energy. And it's something we continue to need to do because we're constantly growing and evolving. And, the memories from what happened in the past often may come into the present. We often think that it's going to go into our future, and we don't want to see it that way. We want to look at what's here now and be able to move forward. So as you become more self-aware, you will bring those experiences forward, but you don't have to hold on to the charge around them. And meditation and spiritual practice helps that. There are some other techniques that I'll bring forward in another module. They're going to help that tremendously. So do not be afraid of tapping into yourself, capital S. Do not be afraid of what you're going to feel and experience, because if you experience something unpleasant or something incredibly painful, it's like a wave of the ocean. It's going to hit its peak and then it's going to calm itself down. If tears come forward, let those tears come. If anger comes forward, in a future module, we're going to talk about how to release anger so that you are constantly able to feel the feels and be able to move them out. And that's going to only help you personally and help you grow in your psychic and spiritual energy. So that's one of the things that is going to be very helpful with spiritual practice. Also, elevate your level of consciousness, and that's part of the awareness as well. It's part of your vibration and frequency, and what that does is everything you're doing here has a ripple effect out into the universe and out to other people, because when you heal something within you, when you expand your consciousness, your conscious mind, your connection to the divine, it's like throwing a pebble in a lake where it just keeps going and going and going, and it positively impacts other people, the planet, as well as yourself. And one of the things that happens in our collective consciousness is when so many people are focused on problems and wars and poverty and all that kind of stuff, it's a focus on the problem, not a focus on elevating consciousness so that we can easily attract solutions. So we're going to be talking more about that, but that's one of the benefits as well. Also, it releases resistance to have a spiritual practice. We naturally have resistance to a lot of things, even things we want to see happen in our lives. And I always use this example of moving, because it's like if you're moving into, just say, from one dwelling to a nice, wonderful, beautiful home, let's just say it's sort of a distance away, you're excited about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to the new house. The minute you get to the new house, suddenly you're met with the excitement plus resistance. Why is there resistance? Because the brain carves neuronal pathways, and I believe I may have said this before, that makes an imprint of what is familiar, what's been happening for a long period of time. And so when we go to change something, we naturally experience some resistance because the carving of the neuronal pathways is what's familiar. It makes it familiar to us. And the mind does not like things that are not familiar. And this is why a lot of people who go through abusive relationships don't leave right away, because the fear of the unknown is scarier than the pain of the known, if the known is pain. And so if you're moving into a new house or moving into something better in your life, there's going to be a natural sense of resistance. And meditation can help with those limiting beliefs that you carry, with any resistance that you have. It can help it just naturally dissolve. It also releases, when we talk about, mental and physical things, it releases stress and anxiety. And I know some of you are aware of that. It can actually lower your blood pressure, your cholesterol. It can help your physical body. For those of you who have physical experiences, I'll say manifestations of a medical journey, meditation can help that as well. A lot of doctors will recommend meditation. It can also help with your emotional response to things and help calm that negative response down. If you're experiencing something unpleasant in your life, or you're going through a medical journey, or you wish you had more of this and you don't, and all that kind of stuff, spiritual practice can help you release the emotional charge around any negative experience you have. So it can actually help dissolve some negative emotions and calm you down. And in order to create change, and we're going to be talking about law of attraction in a future module, you want to be in a place of calmness, of contentment, even joy. That's our natural state of being. And when we've got a lot of negative emotions running around, spiritual practice can be of assistance to that. It can also help you sleep better if you're doing regular spiritual practice. It increases your ability to focus, because a lot of these meditations are all about focus. And if you're somebody who has 5 zillion ideas creatively, or you have so many things to multitask with, and if somebody put a list of what you have to do in a day, it's kind of like, So it can help you sleep better and help you release some of the anxiety around that, and help you be able to chunk those things down so they feel manageable. So focus is really important, and we don't want to focus on all the things we have to do. We want to focus on, a couple of pieces at a time. It's sort of like, and I say this on Facebook Lives all the time, it's like eating an entire cake. That's going to give you a tummy ache. But if you have one slice at a time, not necessarily in the same day, but if you have one slice at a time, it's going to be easier to digest. And so spiritual practice really helps that process, so that you can focus on one little slice of cake at a time and not feel that overwhelm or that anxiety about, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this all done? Because that's very common, way of feeling. And it also helps with the brain and the nervous system. As an empath, if you are declared yourself to be an empath, and most of you are who are in this program going on this journey, it helps with the nervous system. It helps calm some of the empathic tendencies to be hypersensitive. And not that sensitivity is a bad thing, but it helps manage the level of sensitivity. It helps manage the response from the nervous system, where it's like somebody can walk by you in a crowd and you're just sort of jolted by their energy, or you're jolted by the energy of the crowd itself. If you are somebody who meditates on a regular basis, and we're going to talk about how often to do so, or has a spiritual practice of some kind, it's only going to help your nervous system be a little calmer and not as jolted. And the empath emotions and that sensitivity often tend to run amok, so to speak. And so having a spiritual practice helps calm that energy, so that being an empath is a beautiful, manageable experience. And that's what we want it to be. So it also all depends on the person meditating and doing this spiritual practice. If you're somebody, whatever you're bringing to the table, if you're somebody who really is consistent and you don't see it as a chore, and I don't want you to see spiritual practice as a chore at all. I want you to see it as a beautiful opportunity to connect inward. I know we get so focused on our day-to-day, what we have to do in this human experience, what's on our task list for the day. If you're married, if you've got kids, you've got a job that requires this and that, managing your household. There are so many things you can put on a to-do list, and it can get super overwhelming. And so if you are bringing that to a meditation or a spiritual practice, it's going to have a lesser effect in terms of benefits. It's going to benefit you a little less if you're super focused on all of that. You're also going to notice in any spiritual practice, your mind is going to continue to chatter. So why we do focused meditations and why we do specific types of spiritual practice is to help you not identify with all of that. Mind chatter, it's always going to be there. It's how we respond to it or how we identify with it that's going to make an impact, because a lot of the mind chatter isn't giving you anything good, so to speak. It's trying to tear you down, tell you how not good enough you are, how many problems you have. It's going to try to focus on what's negative because it thinks it's being useful in that way. And I always say the mind is a useful tool because what's been programmed in there is a lot of knowledge, but also what's been programmed in there have created limiting beliefs and created the way that in which you see the world. And sometimes some of those things are not pleasing to you or do not have you experience the best life possible. So what we're trying to do here is not only help you open your psychic and spiritual energy, but help some of the medical things, the physical things, the overwhelm, the anxiety, the brain, the nervous system, and help your body calm down so that you can feel good in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, and start to open up. So that is why you do spiritual practice. What I wanted to talk about now are the types of meditation. I'm going to split this up into 2 different modules, and then you're actually going to get a couple of meditation opportunities through module 2 as well. So let's talk about the types of things you can do for spiritual practice. First of all, what we do when I do a 7-day challenge, or when I invite people into meditation, is I do a general focus meditation. And a general focus meditation is simply focusing on your breathing, where you want to breathe in through your nose and exhale like you're blowing through a straw. And whenever you notice the mind chatter, you focus back on your breathing, and you focus on your breathing as much as possible, because that allows you to listen to the messages trying to come forward for you. And you just focus on your breathing. And you could spend about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, ideally 15 minutes. You can put on music. Somebody asked me about that. Can I listen to music while I meditate? Yes, but you want to make it music without words. Otherwise, you're going to be focusing on the words. You want the music to be gentle. I don't want to see any heavy metal meditations. You want it to be gentle music, whether you like classical music, whether you like kind of the new age music. I like frequency music, and I recommend that a lot, because underneath what you're hearing, or if you like a particular sound, like if you like the sound of rain to meditate to, that's great. If you like the sound of beach waves to meditate to, that's great. My favorite composer who creates frequency music is Stephen Halpern, Halpern. And Stephen Halpern has a lot of frequency underneath. Frequency is a tone. It offers a vibration that helps your system do a particular thing. If you're trying to sleep, you want the music with the delta wave. If you're trying to relax and get into a meditative state, you want the theta wave, the theta frequency, and that's what I'm going to recommend for your spiritual practice. If you want to awaken and energize yourself, you want the alpha wave, the alpha wave with the music, if you're trying to like wake up or you're trying to energize yourself. And so Stephen Halpern has a lot of different options for music that is over these frequencies. And you can kind of go onto iTunes, or if you have Google Play or whatever music things are out there that you can get for yourself. If you want, again, you could also get a sound. There's a lot of sounds that are very relaxing, that are more sort of white noise. Some people listen to the sound of an air conditioner, and that is white noise, or the sound of the fan blowing. Some people, again, like rain, or like the sound of a waterfall or a fountain, or the sound of birds chirping in a forest. Anything that pleases you, that feels good, whether it has a frequency or not, is something that you would want to have for your spiritual practice, depending on whether you choose meditation or something else, because there are some other things where music may not be appropriate, and we're going to talk about them. Being in stillness, listening to your inner wisdom, listening to source, the universe, for messages, asking and receiving. You may not want music for that. You may just want to focus on breathing, or focus on the flame of a candle. And focusing on the flame of a candle is a really good way to be in stillness, to listen, to be able to hear messages from the universe, or get into such a deep state of relaxation that your body really calms down. If you're not getting messages from the universe in that moment, note that you may get them throughout the day somewhere else. It may come out of somebody's mouth, and you're like, oh, that's what I was focusing on in my meditation. That's what I was asking to receive. It was a message about that. Or you may turn on the radio, and the music or the song that's playing has the message for you. You may see a billboard that says something that resonates with what you were meditating on. So signs can come from all different types of places. And I do recommend that you open your heart to receive messages in different ways, and not to get frustrated if you're in a meditation or you're in a spiritual practice and you're not getting anything. What you will get is, if nothing else, is a sense of relaxation, an easier way to go about your day. And if you're not getting messages, or you're not getting deceased relatives coming through to give you a message or that kind of thing, don't feel bad about it, because signs are going to come everywhere in all different forms, and they can come throughout the rest of the day. They can come 2 days later. You're going to know when you have a sign that is based on what you were doing in your spiritual practice. Guided visualization is one of my favorite things, and I take you on a lot of guided visualizations throughout this program. But if you want to do guided visualization for your spiritual practice, I recommend a technique called flow dreaming. Flow dreaming was created by a friend and colleague of mine named Summer McStravick, and Summer McStravick actually was the co-creator of Hay House Radio, for those of you who are familiar with Louise Hay, and may she rest, and Hay House. And she helped create Hay House Radio, and she now has her own radio network, and she created a guided visualization process called flow dreaming. And there's so many things that you can download from flow dreaming. If you want to go that route with a guided visualization, you can create your own guided visualization. One of the things I suggest you do with guided visualization is you put some emotion into it. So if you're visualizing yourself happy or joyful, or if you're visualizing yourself in a wonderful relationship, or you're visualizing yourself with more money, you want to hold on to that visualization for at least 16, 17 seconds. And you also want to bring some feeling to it. Not just visualize it, but imagine how it would feel to have that. So let's just say you're trying to use a meditation to bring something to you, or to get a message about your finances, because you want to increase your finances. One of the things you would want to do if you choose guided visualization is to not only look at all this money coming your way, but to imagine what it would feel like to see more zeros after the number that's in your bank account right now. So let's just say you have $50,000 in your bank account. Imagine adding a 0 or 2 to that. I mean, obviously, it's not recommended to keep that amount of money in your bank account, but this is for the purpose of visualization. What would that feel like? And when you match feeling with guided visualization, a lot of things are going to manifest, and we will be talking about that in Law of Attraction as well. But it's a wonderful way to do a spiritual practice as well. So floatdreaming.com is something I recommend highly to people, or if you want to do your own guided visualization by yourself, that's okay too. Meditation on spiritual qualities. One of the things you can do, you want to cultivate spiritual qualities such as love, joy, abundance, prosperity, whatever you want to cultivate for yourself. You can meditate and just close your eyes, use music or not, and just focus on love and love and love and love and love. And just bring your focus to the word love, to the feeling of love, to the feeling of happiness, to the feeling of joy, to the feeling of wisdom, to the feeling of opening up your psychic energy. You can focus on, you know, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairaudience, whichever clair you feel the most drawn to. You could just go clairvoyance, 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 or clear sight, clear sight, clear sight, psychic hearing, psychic, knowing, psychic knowing. Whatever you want to focus on and cultivate, you can actually meditate on those qualities or those words. And meditating on love is going to expand your heart tremendously. It's amazing. There are chakra meditations to do, but I'm going to save that for our module on the chakras. So that's something that you can meditate on as well as a spiritual practice, is working on your chakra system or meditating on it. But again, I'm going to save that for another module. The self-guidance, the meditation can also be an open eye process. And when we did the right hand, left hand dialoguing, or the dominant, non-dominant hand dialoguing, if you did the 7-day challenge, if you were a part of that, you noticed that you were able to use your dominant hand as you and your non-dominant hand as a spirit guide connection. Or you can connect with spirit, your higher self, anything that will help open your gifts. You could actually do a writing dialogue. You can have the music, the rain, whatever sound that brings you peace going in the background, and do a dialogue writing meditation so that you're having a communication situation with an aspect of yourself through the non-dominant hand. And that's a very powerful process. I don't recommend, if this is what you're using for spiritual practice, that you bring your dad or somebody you're having an issue with into the picture, or your mom, or somebody that you're in conflict with. That's not where you're going to resolve the situation. So make it about your spiritual expansion. Make it about, communicating with spirit, communicating with divine energy, communicating with your higher self, with spirit guides, with angels, whatever you want to do in that dialoguing, and have it be a meditative process where you're in a quiet space. Maybe you've got a candle going, nobody's distracting you. It's part of your ritual, and you can dialogue as often as you want to. We're going to talk about, again, how often, which thing to choose, that kind of thing. Connection to nature. Walking meditations are really, really powerful as well. Some of you love taking walks. Some of you love nature. So if you're somebody who loves nature, nature can be your meditation. You can be out in the grass and the flowers, looking at the sky and the clouds. Some people are really into gardening, and gardening becomes a meditative process for them. When you are using nature as a meditative process, you want to open your senses, not just focus on, like if you're gardening, not just focus on the task of gardening, but focus beyond that. Focus on the essence of the plants and the flowers or whatever you're working on. If you are doing a walking nature meditation, focus on the flow of the trees around you and the wind and the sky and whatever you're seeing in your environment, and see if you can create a sense of oneness with that nature and create it to be a meditative process. If you are in a safe neighborhood, you can put some headphones in and have, music playing, or rain, or whatever it is. If you don't feel safe doing that because you're walking by yourself, just, keep it focused on noticing noticing and noticing the energy of the divine in everything you're seeing. Sure, you may see cars drive by, you may see other people if you're walking in nature, but you can see the divine energy within them and create it to be an entire spiritual practice. So walking meditations are powerful. You could also use a mantra or a word as you're walking. We're going to talk about mantras in the next module, but you can use, the word love and focus on love as you're walking. Focus on something, and I will give you some other ideas next module. But if you're a nature person, you can sit in nature. You can do the earthing. You can do the grounding. That is also important for you, that we're going to be talking about later on, the grounding. But sitting in nature and just feeling the energy of it and just getting into the oneness of it, that is one with you, because nature lives. Nature is filled with living things. And while there is life there, there's life here, there's a oneness there, and you want to focus on that. Yoga, for those of you who are yoginis and you love yoga and you do yoga really by yourself or for yourself. If you're in a yoga class, it's a lot harder to use that for a meditation process because there are a lot of other people there. There's an instructor there. If you do yoga on your own, it's a lot easier to kind of create a yoga practice, perhaps with something guided on a video or your on a phone or your tablet or it's like, do we have videos anymore? On a computer or on YouTube or something of that nature, where you're doing a guided yoga practice. And once you really get the moves down, meditate into each posture. And a lot of yoga teachers do the final pose as, where you're lying flat and you're getting an opportunity to really connect in, reflect, but each posture has something different it offers. And so you can use those postures and open and expand and focus spiritually using yoga, because that's a great, some people use yoga for relaxation, some people use yoga for physical fitness, and some people use yoga for spiritual practice. So if you want to use yoga for spiritual practice, at least, as often as you do, that's perfectly fine. Automatic writing, journaling, those are written meditation practices or written spiritual practices, because if you're writing in a journal, if you can actually consciously write what you want in a journal, make sure you don't write your problems as your meditation. Write something positive. Write a mantra or some kind of positive affirmation if you're using it as a meditation. If you are doing automatic writing, then you're holding your pen and you're getting information channeled to you. So it's a meditative writing process while you are receiving messages. Just like you're focusing on the candle flame or you're focusing on your breath, the writing, the words will come through as messages. Or you can ask the universe, ask your higher self, source, what is it that I need to know today? And just let the pen write for you. Let that channeled energy. If this is not your thing, you don't have to do it. Sending light to others in prayer. Some of you are more into prayer. Prayer is really making a request. It is a connection to the divine energy, but often people are praying for something. They're not necessarily just opening to divine inspiration or messages, but they're making a request. They're asking that so-and-so be healed from this medical condition, or they're praying that money comes in soon. So be conscious if you're using prayer, that if you're using it as a spiritual practice, that the prayer is just to cultivate more love. And then you go back to that, the quality cultivation. And so if you're doing prayer separately to pray for somebody or to pray about something, that's very spiritual as well, but you're also making a request, and that's not necessarily what this type of spiritual practice is about. But you can send light to others. You can pray for others. I pray for the well-being of so-and-so. I pray for the well-being of the planet. I send light to the planet. I send light to our political leaders. I send light to my former spouse. I send light to myself. Whomever you want to send light to, if you want to spend your time sending light, that's a spiritual practice as well. So there are more that I'm going to go through in the next module, but these are some of the things you can play with, because you're going to be assigned to play with some of these, to choose some of these. And if you're already doing meditation, whatever type of meditation you are doing, if it is serving you, keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to do what I'm suggesting if you're already in a meditation practice and you're feeling really good about it. Just make sure you open for the expansion of your spiritual gifts, that you include that in your meditation. So this is the completion of Module 2A. Hang in there for Module 2B, because we're going to talk a little bit more about meditation. Bye-bye.